Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fad or Future with Infotech.
Episode 6.
Episode 6. We've made it. We've done 6 of these. I'm very proud. My name is Justin Callahan. I'm system architect at Infotech, and with me is Steve Williams, our CEO, leader, fearless leader, all of the forums. So, but he is in a containment breach, so we're a little worried about him. He's going to get eaten by the
Got my pet T-Rex with me today.
It's okay.
He looks hungry, but he's not going to eat me.
He's just saying hi, extendedly. So
he's actually training for the A+ exam. That's a very important technical certification. He needs that to stay here. I don't want to have to fire our T-Rex.
That's an awkward conversation, no matter how you slice it. So
it's not a one-on-one you want to have. All
right.
So today,
we've got some good topics. We are going to be talking about SSL certificates. Ooh, very fun. Actually very exciting. So looking forward to that. We're going to be talking about Google Balloons Internet, which has made a little splash in the news today, this week actually. And then we're going to be talking about social media platforms and how companies interact using public social media channels. So
we're going to have to do our best to make sure these topics aren't boring for any viewers we have.
I think some energy. I just had some coffee, so I think we're gravy.
Our goal is to at least get a couple new subscribers because we're going to do such a good job on these topics today, right?
Exactly. That's a good plan.
All right.
So to kick us off, though, we are going to talk about SSL certificates. So for many of you that might not be familiar with that, that is the little green padlock in the top left corner of your browser.
So that's why it says HTTPS?
Yes, that is why it shows HTTPS as well. So
the story here is that companies that are issuing certificates, like Google and Network Solutions and some of the other organizations, are now talking about limiting the total amount of time you can own a certificate, which again secures your web traffic and your e-commerce and all the different platforms we use, to limit it to 1 year. Now, normally we can buy certificates for 3 or 5 years. So Fad or Future, what are we thinking on this? Why would it be one or the other?
That's pretty wild. It seems like it's a lot of an increase, especially when we're so used to doing 5 years, because people's platforms, people's websites aren't going anywhere. So there's got to be a reason.
It's a security concern, right? So we're in an age where everything's hackable. And it looks like the concern here is that an SSL certificate key originates with a key, and that key, if it's in existence for too long, is something that can be decrypted. And now by limiting it to 1 year, the companies feel it's a better, let's say, security posture that key has to change every year. Personally, I think it's annoying, right? Because we know what it's like to deal with key renewals and making sure it gets done correctly.
I love it. It's one of the things I look forward to every.
I don't believe that for a second.
Well, that is very interesting, and then it brings kind of the conversation is this whole continued evolution of encryption. I mean, you and I were talking about that earlier in the sense that encryption methods that we thought were secure for there was no way that they were ever going to be cracked for years to come, suddenly become known as insecure. Wi-Fi is always a perfect example of that, where there is no secure known Wi-Fi at this point. WPA, WPA2 are both known as insecure and can easily be compromised. So this thing is continuing to evolve as fast as solutions are being put out. So
you could also wonder if there was some sort of grand architect in terms of Google behind this. Like, so you remember last year, Google really started forcing everybody to do HTTPS. They said, hey, if you go to a site that doesn't have it, we're going to put not secure at the top of your browser. And now they're saying, oh yeah, and you can't use your certificate for more than a year. You got to go pay for it or buy a new certificate every year. You almost feel like there might be a revenue play here.
Yes, Google brought to you by GoDaddy's SSL certificate platform.
All right.
It's a great plan. Well, I mean, the one thing that's really going to be interesting is, are we just in this middle ground? Is this going to be the new lifestyle, or is this going to be something until they evolve to whatever the next plan is? I mean, HTTPS standard SSL encryption has been around for a while. This static certificate has been around for a while. Who knows? Maybe something on the horizon is an evolving certificate. Maybe something that could actually be continuously upgraded and modified itself on both ends securely. Maybe Google got something like that in the works that they're planning on announcing.
Well, the key to a good certificate is proving who owns it, right? Because you're encrypting that traffic to a server, and you want to make sure when you see that HTTPS and that padlock that you're 100% on the right server, and that's what consumers and people using your business sites, that's what they're expecting, is that's going to show that. So it's really going to be verifying that ownership and dealing with that process. So we're kind of at that point in our conversation. Fad or future? Do you think this idea of doing a 1 year, that's the maximum you can do, is that the future we got to deal with, or is this just something that's a fad short term?
I think this is definitely going to be a fad. I think maybe eternal optimism, but I think that there's something on the horizon that is going to evolve the conversation to where it's going to be a constantly evolving encryption method or something where you put it in place and it's good and continues to up that bar as it sees fit.
Well, I am going to go future on this, and I'm going to tell you it's part of, I think, the evolving security landscape, if I could sound a little buzzwordy there for a second. Shortening, whether it's the longevity of a password or an encryption key, that's an important way to position your strategy. But in terms of what the future is, I think there's going to be ways to automate the domain verification process and automate the certificate renewal, and kind of like we do with things that are like VPN tunnels, where we're rekeying them every 8 hours. There will be an eventual automatic process to help make sure your site is secure. And we've seen SSL go through at least 3 revisions, and that's going to keep evolving too. So I think this is just one more step in the future of keeping web traffic secure.
Okay. All right. It'll be interesting to see, that's for sure.
All right. What's next?
All right. So keeping on this Google train, Google kept us busy this week, but we had the launch of Google's Balloon Internet. Project Loon, I believe, is the name of it officially. Okay. But I didn't hear other than just that it was launched. I know you heard a little bit more about that.
Yes, they actually launched in Kenya, Africa, a balloon to provide internet service. So this is part of Google's strategy to reach the billions of people that live in rural or other places that don't have internet infrastructure. And by using low atmospheric balloons, they can provide internet access wirelessly to smartphones, laptops, tablets, and bring basically, again, billions of customers onto their platform. So this is Google's plan. So, what do you think?
I love the idea. I think the low cost and the science behind this low atmospheric weather balloon it's relatively ingenious. But the fact that it is a temporary thing, like they're going to have to maintain this kind of thing, constantly launching balloons to maintain the coverage. I find that hard pressed for Google, especially when Google is notorious for having these moonshot ideas and then just being like, you know what, that was a great little educational experiment, but we're not going to see this through. We're not really going to be able to maintain this for any given period of time. So, and especially it's becoming a topic of conversation, is this accessible internet in remote areas. Tesla's Elon Musk has just made headlines a few times in the past few months with the launches of a large number of the Starlink satellites, starting to build what's going to be a satellite array that is looking to provide the same thing, this stabilized, remote accessible internet. And I don't know, just between SpaceX and Tesla, I think there's a little bit more drive kind of from some of their competitors than Google's backing behind this project. So.
Well, first off, I think this idea of the world changing, what we've had as traditional broadband, we've talked about 5G in past episodes of Fad or Future. I think there's a competitive landscape ahead of us in the next decade for high-speed internet, whether it's satellites, balloons, 5G, or whatever else might be coming our way. I think we're going to see this need to compete to bring the consumer to the internet. And I think that's what Google is planning on. So this particular project phase that they're in is 35 balloons or so floating 20 kilometers, I believe I read, and providing 4G service essentially to areas that are rural. So there's, again, some overlap in the technology. But if Google can bring on customers and that those customers provide revenue to Google, I see something as sustainable. And that's really what Google probably has done in their financial planning. So fatter future on this.
Well, I mean, I would love to say it's future, and trust me, the more competitors, the more people that are providing internet and competing against traditional broadband, I'm just happy as can be with that idea. I still think it's a fad. I don't know if Google's necessarily the one that's going to bring this home in the long term.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to go future. I want to be optimistic and support all the competition out there for internet connectivity. And I know that Google has done projects and scrapped them, like the Google Glasses. Remember that? So it's not, these guys do big R&D projects, and sometimes they don't happen. But I'm going to go future on this one and hope that we see balloons all over the place here.
I think that would be
never
exciting.
See them, but you know what I'm saying.
Hey, balloon watching is going to become a new hobby.
That's right. We'll put LED lights in them, and we can see them everywhere.
It'll be great. Little Google logos. You can see the little G in the sky just going across. It'll be great.
Exactly.
So,
all right, what's our last topic?
So our last topic is social media. Now that's just such a broad topic. So let's pare that down just a smidge. But I'm sure a lot of people have been hearing the news about the massive Twitter hack that occurred on Wednesday. And if for those of you that might not be aware of that, a number of high-profile Twitter profiles were compromised to some degree Wednesday evening and started what appeared to be a coordinated scam push where they were promoting a proposed generosity where if people sent Bitcoin to a specific address, they would get their money back doubled. This impacted I think at least one of the Kardashians, Elon Musk, Bill Gates notably, but also a company which was Square, if I read it correctly, which is the Square transactions with the money payment processing. So that kind of cultivated this conversation of just companies are very prominent and to some different degrees on these public social media platforms. They are interacting with customers, they're providing support. There is this presence that they have started, companies have started to build up, not just on Twitter, but on Instagram and Facebook. And they are constantly at the whim, not only of the security of the platform, but also the stability of the platform. And that just kind of brings into this question of, okay, are companies, as they're reassessing their engagement with their customers, what's the place for these public social media platforms versus, either direct contact or alternate methods?
So your position is it a fad or future for businesses to use social media for customer engagement?
Right.
Okay. All right. That's a really tough one. You didn't, that's not an easy one to cover, especially in just a few minutes. I think there's definitely, if we're talking about layered onions, this is one heck of an onion.
Absolutely. But compress it down, then we might as well just be able to run some of these corporations because, that's easy. That's the answer.
Well, businesses will always go to where their consumers are. We've seen ad spending move from traditional media like newspapers and TV to online. We've seen a lot of different mediums change. Right, postal service has had nothing but challenges the past decade as the internet continues to gobble up what used to be consumer mail marketing, and the social media platforms have definitely filled that void. Right, they're the place the consumers are, and businesses want to get to those consumers. So I think it's hard to imagine it as a fad. Certainly, I guess you could say in terms of an internet life cycle, things happen very fast, come and go. But I think people are on the internet for a long time, and I think businesses are going to keep using the platforms that want people to, want to get connected to the people they're trying to do business with.
Definitely, and be where your customers are is I'm sure it's a business mantra somewhere, but there's also, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot of changes. There's a lot of conversation surrounding Section 230 and the liability of these profiles, these social media companies, to what is posted.
I think the T-Rex just ate Section 230.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a very interesting topic of conversation, is how companies are engaging with these social media platforms. What's the value and what's the danger? And those values and dangers are going to be constantly shifting. It's not as straightforward, I don't think, as it has been for many years previously, where it's just, oh, there's a lot of our customers on Facebook, let's have somebody over there manning a Facebook page. It's becoming a lot more complicated of a conversation in terms of cost, vulnerability, especially in some situations where, I mean, some companies are notorious where you try to call them, you try to email them, you get no response from customer service, but you tweet at them and you get your issue resolved. That's a very public-facing situation. So I think that the way I see it is that this conversation is going to start being more aggressively assessed in terms of danger for the company, not danger, but just exposure for a company in terms of what, whether it's worth it. At the end
so are you saying fad for this? You think it's a fad?
I think their presence on these profiles is going to be, I think it's going to be a fad, but it's just really hard to tell. There's so many factors right now.
All right, very interesting. I think I'm going to go 3 for 3 today and just call another future. We're on the internet for the foreseeable future. It's connecting people in new ways all the time. And with the rise of machine learning and artificial intelligence, that's not going to go away. And I think using these platforms that have millions of users is just going to keep attracting businesses, that, as far as I can see, in the future right now. So I'm definitely going to call this one future. But I fully respect that the liability issues are real. And you could definitely see some major changes in the way it's being done if liability stays in the forefront. And there's a big example of that, right? If this Twitter hack caused somebody to lose millions of dollars, for instance, or many people to lose a lot of money, that would be a situation where you might see some formidable change in the way people use these platforms. But okay, we'll keep watching. Thanks, Justin. Some good topics today.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Good discussion as always. We'll make sure we put a link below on the WatchGuard article talking about the Twitter hack from their Simplicity blog. We'll get that into our notes, and remember to hit subscribe and like if you enjoyed this video. And we will be back again next month for Fad or Future number 7. All right?
7.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you. Bye.